A very good afternoon to you, and this of course is the KLPGA that we are a part of. It's been a very interesting start for us as far as this event is concerned. We've got a couple of bits and bobs to talk about, but right now it's Lee So-mi. It's a par 4 for the asking, 363 meters that she is looking at. The total of course asking, and just getting herself, it looks like she just might have hit the rough or the water hazard. Just a tad bit unfortunate there, I would think. Well, do remember our golfers did start off right at the early part of the day itself. And let's once again remind you that this is the BC Card Hankyung Ladies Cup 2023. 132 golfers in the fray here, and we are coming at you live from the Fortune Hills Country Club, which is based right here in Sancheongbuk-ri, Gunimyeon, Pocheon-si, Gyeonggi-do. Let's remind you, of course, that the temperature was fairly easy for this part of the day. We're looking at clear skies. There was a tad bit of fog in the morning as well, but that, of course, has lifted since then. Well, that's going to roll just a tad bit. You've got a bit of an incline in there. And I think the key, of course, to this entire event is being able to actually make the difference here. We've had a couple of little golfers who've really started off well. So let's pick it up just to keep you updated on what you can expect here. Remember, we're looking at the current leaders on this. We'll talk about them at length. Getting ready to tee off on hole number 5. It's a par 4 for the asking. And that's Lee Yvonne with the first shot. She's got a 3 under par overall since she started off in the morning. It's been a fairly interesting one for her. Let's not forget, of course, that while we're looking at this, let's quickly remind you that leading the way right at the top of the table is Lee Jae-young. And Lee Jae-young, of course, is along with Hyo Da-bin, is tied with a 7 under par overall. In third position, of course, it's Yoon-se Lin, and in fourth, we've got 2 more contenders. Now, here's Sung Yoo-jin on her 5th hole. She's got an even score overall, so I don't think that should be too much of a worry for her when you talk about it. Tad bit of an incline, a downward incline on this one, and it tends to be a little bit of a difficult course or difficult hole to get through. It's not been one of those easy ones. We'll give you a bit of juice on hole number 5, but for now, here's hole number 9 for Im Jin-hee. She's put that fairly close. I think that's a good enough effort on her second. I'll drove that fairly close to its flagstick, and there's definitely a chance for her to just try and finish it up. Now looking to clean this up. It's about 5 feet odd for Park Ji-young, aiming for birdie on her 8th. She too has an even score. The asking is a par 4. Oh, well done. Absolutely well done here. Wasn't going to take too much. So Park Ji-young, an overall of 1 under par. Well, whenever you use the iron or sometimes the hybrid, it's all about being able to place that shot perfectly close to the can, and if you can do that, and I do believe, of course, that she did escape the water hazard. I think she just got it into the rough. It's a bit of a tough shot, but she should be able to navigate and get that ball closer towards its destination. Here's Lee So-mi. Might have to settle for an even score on her 5th. Absolutely beautiful country, isn't it? Absolutely beautiful greens. It's an absolutely wonderful place, yeah, the Fortune Hills Country Club. But more importantly, it's also one of those places which it isn't an easy course. So let's remind you once again, we are at the Fortune Hills Country Club. It's a par 72 for the asking, 6,063 meters, the length of the overall length of the course. This is the BC card, Hankyung Ladies Cup 2023. We are on round 1. Remember, we've got, well, 3 full days of golf to soak in. And Sunday, of course, will be the finale when we get into the 3rd and final round. But for the time being, of course, it's back to the action and back to our young golfers. Bang Shin-sil aiming for birdie on a 5th. Oh, just afraid of the dark, that ball. Just afraid of the dark. She'll clean it up with an even score. Well, as long as you can avoid those bogeys, I think, you just kind of still tend to keep yourself well in the running, abreast of what's happening. And that's such an important thing, when you're getting down to business in this region. Lee So-mi will aim for an on par and just about missing the bus there by a step, I would say. But she'll clean it up. She's bogeyed that one. So the BC card, Hankyung Ladies Open, well, does have a lot of surprises that it can spring up, but most importantly, it's really about being able to conquer this course. As Lee Da-yeon, she's on her 9th hole, aiming for birdie here. 1 under par her overall score. And that incline there, just a tad bit of an incline. Well, getting that ball to swerve towards the right. It's a very gentle swerve. Almost does it, I would have said. Very picturesque, the Fortune Hills Country Club. You've got the road and the traffic in the background that you can get a view of, you would think, but that's actually golf carts. Almost looks like a city, but it's really the course. And this is the tricky one, isn't it? It's an absolutely tricky one on this area, and that water hazard just looming there like a big threat. Looking to clean this up, Im Jin-hee aiming for birdie on the 9th. 3 under par, which is fairly competitive for this part of the event, or at this stage. She's done that well. Just a semi-victory lap before that could find its way through. So 4 under par her overall score. 32, of course, she's looking at currently. So it's been a good start for her. I don't think she's going to be too worried about that. Meanwhile, Lee Da-yeon finishes well with an even score on her 9th hole. 1 under par her overall score, Lee Da-yeon. And one of the key things in this on hole number 5 is trying to avoid that water hazard onto her second stroke. It's Lee Da-yeon. Getting ready to tee off here. And that's hole number 6. And she's using a 5 iron. Remember, it's just 168 meters. You don't want to use a driver for that. Put that into the rough, just I wouldn't say bordering, but a little away from the green. I don't know whether she'd be too thrilled with that shot, but she'll have to accept it. Yes, Seo Yoon Jung on her 7th hole, aiming for birdie. She's got a +1 overall. She'd like to, of course, get that into the negative, and it gets on to an even score overall so far. And I think that would serve her well. So here she is on her own. I think she could definitely make the difference here if she just about settles in. That takes a tad bit of time when you're involved in it. Now here's An Sun-ju onto her 3rd stroke, aiming for birdie on the 7th. And that's easy done. Very confident, very calm. An Sun-ju, she's got an even par after that 7th attempt. So we'll move on to our 8th hole. Well, there's an entire day's play left, so there's no reason to really worry for most of our golfers. Now this area, I was talking about this very water hazard, and as long as you don't get it into the water, that's fine. That's well done there. Hankyung gets that close to the flagstick. We'll have to settle for an even par probably here on the 5th. And it's really key to talk about it when you are looking at an event like this. Remember, the 5th hole, of course, tends to be a lot more difficult. Was talking about it at length, and we've seen quite a few of our golfers just about struggle a tad bit with it. Sung Yoo Jin on her 5th hole. She's aiming for birdie. We'll have to settle for an even score for this one, there's no doubt about it. So hole number 5 was talking about that at length. Now it's a hole where there are seasonal wild plants that kind of bloom. It's pretty, but it's also tough. So it's better to actually hit it in the direction of the light, because the green is not visible towards that area. So you want to hit it towards the light, where there's a slight bit of a clearing. It's a downhill green, huge hazards and bunkers on the left side of the 2-step fairway. So the second shot has to be towards the right of the pin, and that's really where most of our golfers do get into a bit of a muddle. That's because there's a water hazard and a bunker right there. Those can be pretty tough, and slight bit of wind draft, of course, will drive it towards the left. Now Bang Shin-sil gets onto her 6th hole. It's a second. Remember, she got that onto the rough. 168 meters for the asking. A birdie might be a tad bit difficult. but she gets close enough to set herself up for an even finish, and I think that that's what will keep her in good stead, as long as she doesn't as long as she doesn't get into the bogey region. We'll still have to try and build up on that score. So now to Lee Yvonne. Remember, she's aiming for birdie here on the 5th. 3 under par. She's been fairly consistent. It's a bit of there's a tad bit of an incline here. She picks up a Cuban on that one. Well, almost does it, I would have said. Almost does it. But she'll clean it up here to finish with an even par. Roll the flagstick. Just being stubborn enough. Park Min-ji, defending champion. On her 9th, she's got 3 under par so far. We'll have to try and escape bogeying this one. She was in fine form last year. Saw her in action as she came out of Southern Det as the victor. It was such an amazing tournament for her. It's a course that she does like much. Park Hankyung now on to settle for an on par with hole number 5. That's exactly what she does. Lee Jung-min on the second stroke. This is of course for hole 7. She's kept out of the water, and I think she'll be very happy about that. Now aiming to, we'll just finish this gently with an on par. Sung Yoo Jin on hole number 5, and that's exactly what she does. I think that's so important to try and just keep consistent and make sure that you're not getting into those positive regions. Remember, it's always that one sport where you can always be positive about the negatives. Those are the most important. Son Ye-bin on to her second. And this is of course for hole number 7. Fairly decent placement. One of the key things of the Fortune Hills Country Club, of course, is those inclines tend to be just very uneven. And it's over to Lee Myeon. Lee So-mi, sorry, gently missing out on that. Just a tad bit of a worry. She'll have to bogey that one. It was a par 3, and I think that she's just a tad bit upset. Sporting a knee injury. She's got a band-aid under her chin. Almost makes it look like a French beard. But I think it's one of the most annoying areas to pick up an injury. The chin, definitely, especially those cuts and gashes if you have a fall. And that's the road I was talking about with the golf carts. Here's Park Min-ji, claim to settle for on par on the 9th. I think just a bit too much of wrist on that one. Seo Eun-jin onto her second stroke for hole number 8. She's carrying a 2 under par overall. That's fairly decent. Put herself into a strong position. I think that's so important to just keep your focus here for this spot. Park Min-ji. So I think she'll be just content to finish without getting onto those bogeys here. Hankyung on with the second stroke on hole number 8. So just another beautiful wide shot of parts of the course that we're looking at. Still at the top, it's Lee Jae-young and Hyoda Bin, who are in tied first after a 7, under par overall score, and Hyun Se Lin is in third position with a 5 under par. We move on, of course, to those nether regions, tied fourth, where Im Jin Hee is sharing the spot. But in tied seventh, we've got a bit of a quartet with Park Woo Kyum, Choi Yi Rim, Ma Da Som, and Lee Ye Won. and a decent cleanup there, I would think. So Seo Jin, she gets herself up to a 3 under par, and I think overall, I think that should make her a happy camper. We're on to, of course, well, tee off, and I think that that's going to be the interesting one. Because it's Park Hankyung using a 5-iron for hole number 6. That's an interesting one if you ask me. Well, there's always going to be bits and bobs to actually look at as far as the event is concerned. Remember, it's really those water hazards and those bunkers around 5 that really pose to be the big problem. Very picturesque if you ask me. Now here on hole number 7, Son Ye-bin just missing out on the can by a mile. And I think, well, every inch is worth a mile, isn't it, on the green. Lee Chung-min will aim for birdie on her 7th. She's done well, just about controlled that very nicely to finish with an even par score. She's got herself well into the clean on that 7th hole with a birdie, and I think that's exactly what she needed. Now teeing off here for hole number 7, the asking is a par 4. 368 meters for the count. She's on to an even over par. Function mill. Going with the driver, and I think she's well kept herself onto the smooth part of the fairway, and I think that that's so important. You just want to try and avoid the rough as much as possible, because well, it's when you get into the rough that it just tends to create a tad bit of a worry. Remember, we had a few bits of weather to worry us early in the day, but so far, of course, things have been fairly better. Let's also very quickly get you onto Kim Soo-ji, who'll tee off on the 7th. She's 3 over par. I'm sure she'd like to change that. Just looking at hole number 7, it's a par 4 hole located on the access road. The entire green, of course, around here is surrounded by hazards, and it's an island green hole connected by 2 beautiful wooden bridges. You'll get a view of that later. Now, if you can comfortably take the tee shot to the left of the bunker in front, the effects of the hazards and the wind on the second shot could be the only problem. So it's that second shot that is so important on hole number 7. You've got to try and avoid the hazards. There's a strong wind draft that poses an anomaly here. But, however, it shouldn't be too much of trouble. Now, it's only in winter times that it's safe to drop in front of the green. And was just talking about those, hazards and that island in there. Let's remind you, of course, this is the BC Card Hankyung Ladies Cup 2023. We are into round 1. It's the Fortune Hills Country Club that we're coming at you live from. Par 72 is what we're looking at, and of course, as always, the distance about 6,663 meters, the overall course. Let's keep in mind the fact that we've also had a fairly decent start. As I said, in the early parts of the morning, there was a tad bit of fog, but that's lifted. It's fairly pleasant. I don't think that it's going to be Well, I hope it's going to be clear blue skies for the rest of the entire event. Now here's Sung Yoo Jin. She's on her 6th with her 2nd stroke. I would have loved that. She's placed that perfectly, but you'll have to settle for an on par. I do believe such a strong opportunity to have actually nailed a birdie would have been a marvelous shot, but there'll always be time for that. Remember, of course, round 1 is so important because our golfers do have to try and make themselves, well, or set themselves a base, get into that higher region, finish at, towards the top region of the table, because on the leaderboard it can dictate whether you stay in or you're out of the tournament. On to Hankyung, who's on to her 2nd stroke for hole number 6. The asking for this was par 3. She'll aim for birdie. It's a bit of a distance, 9.5 meters to the hole. That'll tell you a tad bit of a story. We'll just needed a tad bit more club on that, I would have thought. But she could still finish off with an on par. Lee Jung Min on to her 2nd stroke for hole number 8. Oh, what a marvelous shot. What a marvelous shot. Has set herself up here for a birdie. Almost thought she could have almost grabbed an eagle there, if you ask me. Lee Yvonne, hole number 6, aiming for birdie on a 2nd. And I think it's just that fair bit of a turn, a downward incline from where she was, and I do believe that she would have had to just slice it a tad bit. Jun Ye-sung, onto her 2nd stroke for hole number 8. Well, that's placement. That's magical placement, isn't it? It just stayed put. Wasn't going to turn anywhere, and she's got a smile, of course, for that as well. She just plonked that right down next to the flagstick. What an event. That's an absolutely fantastic finish, isn't it? An eagle for her there, and she knows that. And I think that that's important. Well, every time you do tend to nail an eagle, there's always going to be a big one from your competitor. So fantastic effort here from her. An eagle on that one was just misled by that other placement of the other ball, but fabulous work being done here. So you do want to pull in as much as you can, and to nail an eagle, it's not always easy. Yes, Bangshin Sil, of course, 109 meters to the hole, elevation of 7.5 meters. She's got herself onto the green. Looking to finish this with an on par on hole number 6. Here's Lee Ye-won. And she'll still keep that consistency running, but hasn't bettered the score so far. It's a 3 under par that she's looking at. And that's our leaderboard. Lee Jae-young is up there along with Hyoda Bin, still tied in first position on 7 under par. Hyun Se Lin, of course, is in third with 5 under par overall, and Kim Hye Hyun, Kim Yoo Bin, and Im Jin Hee is tied fourth with 4 under par. So these are our front runners for the time being. Let's very quickly, of course, remind you that this is the BC Card Hankyung Ladies Cup 2023. 132 golfers here in the fray. We are looking, of course, at a prize money of about 800 million Korean won, or 616,489 USD. So Park Ji-min, or Minji Park, as you would call her, finished off in 2022 with a win. She's the defending champion here. She's also ranked 1 as of week 25 in 2023. Now, let's remind you that we're still coming at you live from the Fortune Hills Country Club, and we're going to stay put here all the way till Sunday. It's been a good start for us today and a fairly interesting one. So we will, of course, get on to our next bit, which will be our very next, hole to tee off for our golfers in focus. And that, of course, will probably be, the best thing to do, because we've got hole number 8 that's coming up in just a little bit. So don't go anywhere. Stay with us right here at the Fortune Hills Country Club. I do love this place for its scenic settings, but as a golfer, I would think it's just a tad bit of a tough course to negate, depending on the time of year. Winters get to be, just a tad bit easier. I can't say the same about, the summers. Absolutely wonderful shot. I do love, of course, absolutely love all the wide shots that, our lensmen or our cameramen provide us with. And sometimes, of course, I do remember on one of the occasions there was the moon up in the sky, and we had such a beautiful view of that. I would have thought this is a cousin of the Joshua tree, just looking at it, but it's not. I'm just trying to pull Mickey in that one. Let's remind you once again, of course, that we are still in round 1, and this, of course, is an event that we will start off in the morning. It's the BC Card Hankyung Ladies Cup 2023. My name is Glenn Mascarenas, and I'm here to take you through this day's events. So do stay with us as we continue with our action right here at the Fortune Hills Country Club Resort. There's a lot to talk about in this event, where, of course, Minji Park will really try and make a difference in the event. It's going to be interesting what she can, come up with. Let's not forget, of course, that we have 3 rounds for this event, which will be Sunday will be the third and final round, and it's going to be an interesting one. We are going to get on to hole number 8 in just a little bit, so don't go anywhere. Stay with us as the flow of this event continues right here at the Fortune Hills Country Club. Just narrowly missing out on that effort, and I think she would have hoped to have finished better here. Here's Lee Jung-min aiming for birdie on her 8th, and she's done well there. Just needed that gentle nudge. Wasn't going to be anything too fancy, and she'll be excited, of course, with that. Takes her to a 1 under par overall. She's had 2 consecutive birdies in there, and I think that's kept her in good stead. Bong Shin-sil aiming for an on par, and that's what she does on hole number 7. She had great placement there with that almost nailed the birdie from a distance. And the 7th hole, remember, it's a par 4, but we were looking at 368 meters. Bit of a downward incline on that as well. 205 meters from the tee, you've got the edge of the sand bunker there. Got these 2 beautiful bridges that I spoke about earlier that lead into the green. It's an island hole that we're talking about here. There's a downward incline just on the edge and towards the flagstick as well. Lee Yvonne onto her 2nd, and this is the tough one. You've got to try and avoid that wind draft here. 111 meters to the hole. I think that's a fairly decent effort. She's put herself into a fairly good position. Remember, that 2nd shot you need to keep away from the hazards and the wind. Meanwhile, here's Sung Yoo-jin onto her 2nd stroke for the 7th hole. 90 meters is what we're looking at. Elevation of about 5.6 meters and under. Well, I think not too satisfied with the shot. She'll take it for what it is. She might have to settle for an on-par finish. Yes, Hankyung. 86 meters to the hole. She's on to her second stroke as well. Remember, I said hole number 7. This second one is the most important. Well, definitely a better effort here from Hankyung. Lee So-mi, another one of those very, very consistent golfers, teeing off on the 8th. Just off the fairway a tad bit. Now remember, this of course is a comfortable hole. It's got a wide fairway, that exotic beach bunkers on both sides after a tee shot. I wouldn't like to sit on any of those exotic beach bunkers though. It's an uphill hole, many bunkers around the green, and there's a creek that runs across it. Plenty of room behind the green, so it's better to play big rather than short in order to avoid those 3 putts. Focus on adjusting the distance, considering that the horizontally long green and the slopes of the green with waves from the left to right, they're very visible. Mong Chil-min, well, not the fanciest spot, but I think that's a decent one on the fairway, so you can still keep at it. Teeing off for the 8th. Remember, it's not the toughest of the holes on the course. It's one of the better ones. Absolutely beautiful scenic beauties, and I love that waterfall in the background. Here's hole number 7, Lee Yvonne. Oh, just falling shy. Just falling shy. I think she needed just a tad bit more than that. We'll be able to clean it up with an on par. And nicely done. So no worries here for her. Lee Jung-min onto her second. This is for hole number 9. The asking is par 4. Might have to avoid the birdie there, but the intent is always there. Now it's on to Park Hyun-kyung, aiming for birdie on her 7th hole. Remember, it was a par 4 that we were looking at for this one. Looks like she just slipped out on that one. And she will finish it with an on par here. Well, just, I think, narrowly missing out on a birdie here. Jang Yi-sung onto her second stroke, hole number 9. Fairly good effort from her. Remember, she flew an eagle on the previous one. It's over to Lee Yvonne, aiming for birdie on a 7th hole. It's a tad bit of a distance. There's just a slight downward incline towards the left of the can. And I think just a bit too much of a push. That's going to keep her in check, but she'll still be able to finish with an on par. Hankyung onto a second stroke for hole number 8. She went in for a wedge for this one. Needed more of a chip than a actual knock. Here's Lee So-mi onto a second as well, going for the wedge, 58 degrees. I think that's beautifully placed. Absolutely well done. Will set herself up for a birdie, Lee So-mi. So Lee 1 back in focus. Will settle for on par for her 7th hole. Lee Ga-young, stroke number 3rd, hole number 10. Remember, it's a par 5 for the asking, and I think that's absolutely well placed by her. Could finish this with an under par score. Still playing for birdie on this one. It's hole number 8. I think just misjudging that incline a tad bit, and will have to finish with an on par. Teeing off here for hole number 8, here's Sung Yoo Jin. They're asking a par 4. So that's a fairly decent spot on the fairway for me, at least. I think she'll be happy with that effort for the time being. It's not the toughest of holes to get through. Hole number 8, it can be just that what you require. That'll give you a tad bit of relief compared to the others that you've been through now. Yes, Park Hankyung teeing off for hole number 8, par 4 is the asking, 271 meters, and just does a tad bit better than a group member. Keeping yourself on, the smooth surface always a tad bit better than getting into the rough, because it just calls for more easier, challenges. Here's Lee Won teeing off for hole number 8. She's got herself almost parallel to her group member as well, so very similar efforts by our previous group. We move on to Lee So-mi on hole number 8, aiming for birdie, and I think just a tad bit too impulsive on that. Would have taken a bit more time. She was confident of the shot. Will have to settle for an on par. Could have just changed the outcome here. We'll have to keep at it. Young Lee So-mi. Lee Jung-min. Wonder if a birdie would be in contention. She's on hole number 9. Well, it won't be, but she could very well finish off with an on par as well. Meanwhile, just to keep tabs here, all that's needed is a gentle putt from Bang Chen Sil to finish off with an on-par. She's on even score at the time being, and she does exactly that. So she'll keep an even score after hole number 8. Here's Jun Yi Sung, who gave us that eagle earlier. Hole number 9. Well, that is absolutely fine from her. A very, very gentle banana ball, and that'll finish it off to give her a 3 under par overall score. 33 is what she's looking at for that front 9. Be interesting to see how she performs on the back 9. So our current leaderboard as it stands, it's Lee Jae-yong, who's still at the top, tied with Hyo Da-bin on 7 under par. And I think that's going to be an interesting battle to see how these golfers perform against each other, because we haven't seen any changes in the movers right at the top, and well, come round 2 that could all change. Having said that, we are still right in the midst of round 1. Still a good bit of play left in the day. Not the clearest of skies, but it's blue, and I think that we'll take it. Always a welcome sight. Bang Chen Sil. But has had an interesting day in today's event. But it's Lee Jae-yong that we'll focus on right now. She aims for birdie on hole number 10. And that's well done. Acknowledgement as well for that finish. So she's up to a 3 under par overall. She gets started on her, well, back 9. Lee So-mi teeing off for hole number 9. Hole number 9, of course, you face that snowman rock standing tall after the green. There's an OB area on the left from the tee to the green. So if you hit the right side a lot, it's better to draw it in with a lot of distance and look at the snowman rock and hit for it. Aim for that. The second shot, better to look to the right rather than the center. So the first one, well, just a tad bit of a hook required for it. And I think, well, off the rough and onto, well, the smooth, well, that's, I think, something that's worked well here. So you are looking at angling that, well, first shot of the drive a bit towards the right, not too much, I would say. Yes, Bang Chen Sil. She gets started on hole number 9, 366 meters the distance, par for the asking. That's an interesting shot, but I do believe, well, she'll get herself onto the rough, there's no doubt about it. Remember, it's all about just trying to angle it towards the right, because that's where the hole, well, gently leads you to. It's a bit of a turn towards the right, and that second shot is very important. Meanwhile, on to her second, year's Sung Yoo Jin for hole number 8. Oh, absolutely marvelous placement. That is beautiful placement. We'll just have to keep her cool, or as is cliche to say, keep calm and putt. That looks like it gently lipped out just towards that edge. Lee Vyun is up next. It's hole number 8. A little close, but not as close as she would have liked it, I do believe. So Hyun Se Lin is in third position with a 5 under par. You've got that You've got now a trio of Kim Ah Hyun, Kim Yoo Bin, and Im Jin Hee, who are 4 under par. That's an interesting, take, because you had one drop out of that third tied position. Still no changes. It's still 7 under par. Overall, that is the score to beat here in today's efforts. So there we have it. The leaderboard. Lee Jae-yong and Hyo Da-bin are sitting right at the top of the table, dining there for quite a bit of time. Let's very quickly remind you, of course, that this is the BC Card Hankyung Ladies Cup 2023. We're coming at you live from the Fortune Hills Country Club, which is based in Gyeonggi-do, South Korea. As of now, in week 25, of course, it's Park Min-ji who holds the top ranking with rank 1. The prize money for this event is $616,489 or 800 million Korean won.
잠깐만 멈춰주세요. 저희 필요할게요. 다 멈춰주세요. 네.
Seojin just falling shy of the can by a tad bit. I don't think that's going to be a cause for concern for her. Over to Lee Yvonne, who's on to her third, aiming for birdie on the 8th hole. Will take her time on this one. It's just missed it by a hair's breadth. Will settle for an on par that keeps her on a 3 under par overall score as of now. Definitely a chance there to have finished with an under par earlier. On to our next. Here's Seo Yoon-jung. And that slipped out on her 10th hole. Would have liked to have finished that. Had a smile on the face. Knew she had it within the grasp. Will have to settle for an on par.
나이스 파! 가비 잘하고 있어.
She's all smiles. Just knew she could have finished that a tad bit better. Absolutely love that wide angle. Here's Bang Shin-sil. On to her third stroke. It's hole number 9. Needed to chip that. Oh, that's so close. Oh, that was just so close. Such a consistent, very well focused golfer, Bang Shin-sil. Teeing off for hole number 9, yes, Sung Yoo-jin. 366 meters is what we're looking at. They're asking a par 4. And that's a good spot on the fairway. It certainly is. Meanwhile, it's back to Lee So-mi. Needs to just get off that rough on a third stroke. This is for hole number 9. Slight bit of a angle, dragging that ball towards the right. We'll have to settle for an on par probably. Still a bit of a challenge for Lee So-mi there. Now here's Lee Yvonne as she tees off. That's hole number 9. 366 meters and par 4 of course the asking. Lee So-mi. Will settle for a non-par, but she's still, her overall score is 1 over par, and she finishes with 37 on that front nine. Interesting to see what she comes up with on that back nine. She's a very, very interesting golfer to watch when she is on song. She's really, really in the zone, if you ask me. And yes, Bong Chul-sin finishes on par as well for hole number 9. She's got an even score overall. Definitely be keen on changing that. Meanwhile, teeing off for hole number 11 is Seo Young Jung. Par 3 the asking. Oh, that's beautifully placed. Can't finish that with a birdie. Remember, it's these tricky shots when you have, well, a par 3 that you're looking at. It's all about placement on the tee off itself, and it's the way you drive it. So here's An Sun-ju onto hole number 11. 171 meters is the asking.
Yeah. Go.
Well, I'd say that's decent too. Putting it in a different direction from her group member. Meanwhile, yes, Hankyung. A second effort there. I think she'll be kind of satisfied with that. I would have expected it to have gone ahead in leaps and bounds. Here's Lee Jung-min. It's hole number 10. It's her third stroke. Drawing herself at quite a distance from the flagstick, but I don't think she's going to complain about that. On to her next as well. Here's Lee Won. It's a second stroke for hole 9. 113 meters to the hole. We'll go with the iron for certain. I think a fairly decent enough effort. She's got herself onto the green. Just needs to be able to navigate her way through those well, small inclines. Once again, our leaderboard up there for today's event. Lee Ji-young and Hyo Da-bin still at the top. Hyun Se-lin is catching up. She's gone to 5, well, under par, and that's interesting, of course. Kim Ah-hyun, Kim Yoo-bin, and Im Jin-hee, well, just following suit. And I think the race is on for whether you want to try and cap off that, top spot. Will be very interesting to see how the tied fourth, finish off with their day's action. But for the time being, also, it's very important to try and keep, well, yourself away from the bogeys as much as you can. We haven't had, well, too many with the front runners, and that's one of the reasons why you either want to finish with a birdie or an eagle, or more importantly, keep yourself from anything with an on par and under. And that's where the challenge lies. A lot of, well, round one, of course, will involve, chances to find redemption, but it's not going to be easy. And really, at the end of the day, it does dictate what's going to happen in round 2. So I do believe our golfers do have to give it their all. There can be a few hits and slip-ups here, but it's really round 2 and round 3 where that margin of error tends to be, well, diminishing, or it needs to diminish from the golfer's end. So we continue with our coverage of this KLPGA event, which is the BC Card Hankyung Ladies Cup 2023. Quick reminder that we're coming at you from the Fortune Hills Country Club. We're looking at a prize money of 800 million Korean won, or 616,489 USD. And more importantly, let's also very quickly remind you that We're going to be with you all the way till the end of this tournament on Sunday. It's Sung Yoo Jin now on her third stroke, aiming for birdie. This is for hole number 9. That ball too, definitely afraid of the dark, there's no doubt about it. But she'll finish with an on par, and I don't think that's going to concern her too much, because as long as she can well keep it consistent, I do believe. Just needs to pull in the birdies when she can. One of the sports where I think that certainly does apply, a birdie in the hand is worth 2 on the bush. CEO Virginia aiming for birdie on hole number 11. Picked up a Cuban on that one for certain. We'll have to settle for an on par, and I don't think it's going to concern her as well too much. But one of the key things, of course, is, well, as long as you can keep away from those bogeys here, that's so very important. On to Hankyung. Aim for birdie for hole number 9. Would have been such a marvelous shot. She did get that angle right. Almost conquer that incline. On to An Sun-ju. Aims for birdie on hole number 11. She had good placement after the tee off. There just seems to be elusive here. We'll finish with an on par. Seo Yoo-jin. She's had an interesting day today, there's no doubt about it. And one of those golfers, of course, who always keeps a very bright front. She's always got a smile on her face. Now here's the one. Just needs to clear the way through. They'll be a tad bit disappointed with that. She's had a few opportunities missed there of hitting the can with an under par finish. Hole number 10, getting ready to tee off. Here's Bangshan Sil. 517 meters. The asking is par 5. Lee So-mi, she was in fine form last year. It's on to her 10th hole as well. Will tee off, 517 meters. Not a bad spot on the fairway at all. Just keeps that in contention of adding a few more valuable points here. It's Kim Soo-ji now. Will tee off for hole number 10.
Shot.
Well, teeing off is such an important thing when you know that you want to get yourself into that close region. She gave us an eagle earlier. Almost thought we would have nailed a hole in one. She's such an interesting golfer, isn't she? Started off a bit slow here today, but she's just kind of up to game.
It's only between you and me. 솔직히 말해 난 그토록 강하진 않아. 너만 알고 있으면 좋겠어. In truth, she's not a fearless, but you have her feelings.
솔직히 그냥 진짜 기분이 너무 좋다는 생각밖에 안 되고요. 초반에 잘 안 풀려가지고 우승 생각보다는 그냥 내 것만 하자, 그냥 집이나 내 것만 하자 이 생각만 했는데 하나하나 그래도 잘 맞춰 떨어지면서 우승까지 하게 되어서 좀 기분이 좀 되게 싱숭생숭해요.
Back again, the leaderboard, which tells us a very similar story from what we just saw a while back. Here's Lee So-mi again. On to her second. 570 meters is what we were looking at. Remember, it's a par 5. Bit of a difficult hole. There's a bunker to the left and you got to be careful.
못 봤어요.
This hole, of course, hole number 10 requires precise shots. Bang Sil with her second effort needed to get out of the beach. Just getting onto the rough. Just a tad bit of concern for her with this hole. Hole number 10, of course, does ask that you attack more towards the right rather than keep it towards the center of the lean area. Now here's Son Yibin, who's on an even score, sorry, aiming for birdie, and that, well, just about narrowly missing the can, so she'll have to settle for an on par here for hole number 11. Meanwhile, getting ready to tee off for hole number 10, which has been a very, very interesting hole for us. Here's Sung Yoo Jin. She's 1 under par overall. Remember, 517 meters, never the easiest. That beautiful sound of that driver will just tell us a story. She's kept herself onto the lean, there's no doubt about it. Lee Jung-min aiming for a birdie on hole number 11, 5.2 meters to the hole. It's a bit of an ask, but not something that cannot be conquered. Keep in mind the fact that the ground here tends to be a tad bit uneven. There you see it just kind of dipped a tad bit to the right. We'll clean that up with a on-par finish. Lee Won, meanwhile, gets ready to tee off for the 10th. Had a fairly decent run on her first 9, amassed a 3 under par overall score.
Sure.
And really keeping yourself well on track matters so much. Now Lee Won will know that the second shot that she has to take will have to be angled a tad bit more towards the right. Quick word there from the caddies, just made her smile. Hankyung gets ready next. She'll tee off for hole number 10.
Sure.
Bit of a whipper there. She did put in a good effort, and that well just stays well in line with what a group member also well is going with. Remember, the grouping is so important, and of course it's going to change tomorrow when we get into that, when we find out what the scores are at the end of this day, and there'll be a lot of golfers to focus on. Seo Yun Jung on to her third effort. She's had that 3 times in a row. That ball within kissing distance off the can. Takes it well in her stride. She's always in good spirit. I really love that about her. Well, there are golfers who tend to be intense and focused, and there are golfers who tend to take things as they come in their stride and just smile. Here's a young lady, of course, who delighted us earlier with her skill. Aims for birdie on the 11th hole. She's 3 under par so far. Jun Yi Sung. And that's a victory lap for her. Done extremely well. So Jun Yi Sung takes it up to 4 under par overall. And a lovely finish there on the 11th hole. And she'll be happy. Elsewhere, right on the rough, is Bang Shin Sil. third effort. She's got, of course, two more. Remember, it's a par 5 that we're looking at for this hole. But whether you can aim for a birdie or not, I think is the big question. Lee So-mi, who's had a very challenging first 9, but she is a very, very hardy and seasoned golfer. We've seen in recent times how she can actually give, you know, those front runners, especially 2022. She was in fine form. So on to her third. And you just want to keep yourself off that bunker. She does exactly that. She's close to the flagstick, but it's off the green. And I think the next, of course, effort will be so important. Would have liked to have nailed a birdie, but that's going to be a tad bit tough. Now here's an incline that slopes downwards and then gently backwards as well, away from the golfer. So you really want to try and use the banana ball to the maximum. Seo Er-jin now onto her third stroke for the 12th hole. And we'll have to finish on par. Just checking with the official there. Just clean that up. We'll move on to the next challenge and the next hole. How important is that form, especially when you get into the early part of the morning? Of course, golfers used to training and playing, you know, fairly early, but when the body hasn't loosened up entirely, and it's so important because keep in mind the fact that that shoulder, the lower back, the forearms and the wrist, the torso as well is put to good use. Just heading towards, well, a straight direction. I don't think she's going to be too disappointed with that. Lee Won. Meanwhile, here's Sung Yoo-jin on to her second stroke for hole number 10. Park Hankyung onto her second for hole number 10. She had a very good tee off. 288 meters to the hole is what she's looking at. And she's hooked that. Could be, well, a decent enough effort. Remember, you've got to try and keep towards the right. You've got to aim towards the right, attack the right for most part of hole number 10, especially from that second shot. And I think Park just reading that really well. It's back to Bang Sil. Sil is on to her fourth effort for hole number 10. It's Bang Sil. She too started off fairly confident, had a few challenges along the way. Just marking the spot. Meanwhile, Lee So-mi needs to get out of the rough and onto the green as soon as possible. We'll be gauging that distance to the can as well. Chip that ever so gently, Lee So-mi. Not really in the woods, not really in the thick, but just on the rough. And shouldn't be too hard for Lee Jung-min to get off it. She's on to her second stroke for hole number 12. Remember, it's a par 4 asking, 168 meters to the hole. Goes in with a 6 iron. I think a fairly good choice, but I do believe just a tad bit too much of club on that one in the wrong direction. Would have liked to have actually, well, just angled it a bit more, driven it towards the left. Here's Son Yi-bin. Got an even par, hole number 12. This is a second stroke, 366 meters is the overall asking. At 164 meters, I do believe she's pulled it in, well, fairly tough. And we'll have to, we'll just skip on getting an under par finish here on this one. It's going to be a tough call with 2 shots left for this hole. Here's Jun Yi-sung going into the 6 iron, needs to cover 150 meters. Onto her second stroke, it's so important if she wants to keep that, well, score increasing. She's put it onto the green, and that ball of course will stop at a distance. There's still a 50-50 opportunity here to nail a birdie on this one. Bong Chun-sil needs to finish off with hole number 10. She'll be aiming for on par. She's kept it well in the safe region, so no worries at all for her. Smile as well for that acknowledgement from, well, the supporters. There's family and friends, and there's, more importantly, well, the officials too. Lee So-mi, well, as I said earlier, she still had her worries today, but she's, well, kept herself together. Still attacking every single hole with that same amount of intensity. Oh, that's wonderful placement. Absolutely wonderful placement here. To Lee Won. Onto her 10th hole as well. It's never going to be easy, but gets herself, well, onto the green. It's not too far away from the flagstick, and I think she's still given herself a fighting chance here. Hankyung, she's been delightful to watch right through this event. Onto her 3rd stroke for hole number 10. Just escapes the sand bunker, but I think she's on the edge of it. Won't be too happy with that. Was trying to traverse that distance, and I think it just puts her into a bit of a tough position. Meanwhile, Bong Chun-sil will tee off at hole number 11, 171 meters the distance. It's a par 3 for the asking. She's put herself onto the green. And it's so important with those 160 to about 180 or 185 yards. You want to make sure that you actually get yourself closer to the flagstick. Very quickly, our leaderboard there, Lee Jae-yong and Hyo Da-bin still at the top with a 7 under par. Hyun Se-lin on 5 under par is in third, and Kim Ah-hyun, Kim Yoo-bin, Im Jin-hee, Lee Ga-young, and Jun Yi-sung are in tied fourth with 4 under par. Then, of course, you've got a tied ninth there, led by Park Bo-kyum and Choi Yi-rim. But it's really those front runners now that we've got to keep our focus on to find out what they can bring to the table in the next few holes. Park Hankyung needs to get out of the rough. She just about escaped that cat box, and I think that that's so important. Uses the wedge. She's on to her fourth stroke, so of course has set herself up for an on-par finish here. And I think what she was trying to do earlier was actually to cross that sand bunker, get onto the green, and she just missed out on the third stroke. So Park Hankyung will be very keen on just upping her game. Well, as we progress, this can be a tricky shot, but a chance here for a birdie for Jun Yi-sung. And she's settled for an on par, so I don't think she's going to be too concerned about it. She's still 4 under par, so I think that's put her in tied well, fourth position. So Lee Yvonne also aiming for birdie, her fourth stroke on the 10th hole. I think she just tried to keep that straight. Didn't get, well, too much of movement to the right. We'll also have to finish on par here. Meanwhile, this could be quite a distance. Lee Jung-min aiming for birdie, 4.3 meters to the hole. That's exactly what I was saying. This is the 12th hole for her. Almost does it, doesn't it? She'll clean that up with an on-par finish. Sung Yoo Jin will settle for a birdie, takes it up to 2 under par overall after 10 holes. So I think she'll be happy about that. Starts her back 9 with a very, very good under par finish. Meanwhile, Bang Shil Sin needs to close that distance between her and the flagstick. Not the easiest. Aiming for bird here on the 11th hole. She will fall shy. She'll have to finish with an even score for the 11th hole. Over to Seo Urchin. Aiming for birdie on hole number 13, 11.1 meters to the hole. That's a bit of a distance. And that banana ball, of course, will just be kind of, deceptive. It's moved away from the flagstick. Still put herself in contention of finishing with an on par here for this hole. Here's Lee So-mi. Aims for birdie on the 11th hole. Well, that's beautifully done. That had to find its way through. No separating the ball from the can here. And Lee So-mi gets a moment of joy. She's such a wonderful golfer. As I said, when she's in the zone, it's an entirely different story. Interesting hole here. You've got a bunker on the right for the 11th hole, and you can avoid that bunker by hitting your tee shot slightly to the left of the center. Remember, there's a downward incline on the green, so you definitely want to angle your shot slightly towards the left, off the center, not too much. And I think that it's so important here. So here we go with the tee off. And this group, of course, start off with Sung Yoo Jin. Remember, it's just, well, that's a tough bit when you talk about it, isn't it? You want to try and avoid that bunker, slight hook, and you really got yourself into a spot. Don't think she'll be too satisfied with that effort. Move on to, of course, her group member. Here's Lee Yvonne, 171 meters. It's a par 3 for the asking. And now let's not forget, Lee Yvonne, of course, is in a fairly comfortable position with a 3 under par overall score. Well, she's put herself onto the green. And that's a better shot than her group member, of course. I think she was aiming for it to be closer towards the flagstick, but then as long as you can avoid that bunker, that's such a joy, isn't it? Park Hankyung will go next. Remember, you definitely want to avoid the drivers for this one. It's just a short distance. You're going for the iron. And it's really a choice between the 2 to 9, depending on what you'd find best. Kept herself well on the green, but more importantly, might just have denied herself an under par finish on this hole. Here's Lee Ga-young aiming for birdie on the 14th. Oh, she's done well. Well, just a whoop of joy for her there. The gentle nudge, and a birdie for her takes her up to 5 under par. Lee Ga-young on a 14th hole. She's done well. Lee So-mi gets ready to tee off as well. .366 meters, par 4 on the 12th hole. Lee So-mi, ball sticks to the lane. I think that's a good bit. She's kind of just avoided getting onto the rough, and she's got a smile for that. She'll be happy with that shot. There's no doubt about it. Bong Chil-sin will go next on the 12th hole. Now this is a bit of a tricky hole. Just to give you the loop on this one, there's a large hazard on the left side extending from the tee to the green. Now the left side of the bunker on the right for the 12th hole is a good location, but it does face to the right. There's also a creek across the fairway in front of the green, and it's a 3-step green, so unless you're a long hitter, you can firmly cross the creek. It's a tough hole to actually, well, conquer, hole number 12. And just the leaderboard there, it's been unchanged so far, with only, well, Lee Ga-young now stepping herself up into that, tied third. She was in tied fourth for quite a bit of time. So she's been a mover as far as we are concerned, and certainly had a fist bump for that, well, birdie she had in the previous effort on the 14th hole. getting out of the beach, always a really, really important part. Never easy. And Sung Yoo Jin, well, does fairly well, but just I think a tad bit too much of well, club on that one. But at least she's got herself out of the hazard, and I think what really she requires to do, of course, is now just finish with that on par. Meanwhile, let's get back to the 13th hole for Jun Sung. She's on to her third. 134 meters to the hole, goes in with the iron. And she's got herself onto the rough. Bit of airmail on that. Meanwhile, yes, Hankyung. Hankyung, of course, has also had an interesting day. Another very elegant, fine golfer. So close, yet so far, you'd think. Hankyung will just settle for it for the time being. Here's Bangchin Sil. 148 meters to the hole on the 12th. That's the second stroke.
나이스 샷.
Would have liked to have got it closer to the flag stick, but I think that's was still gonna just keep her in that, well, neutral region. Here's Lee Won. Lee Won, of course, aiming for birdie on her 11th, 9.1 meters. Oh. Almost there, you'd think. Well, she'll just finish it with an on par. That beautiful Mercedes EQ there for a hole-in-one. Here's Seo Jin using the 6 iron for that 14th hole. Could have nailed that hole-in-one if you ask me. Would have been driving away in that car for certain. But here it is. It's on to, of course. Our next golfer, and that's Sung Yoo Jin. Just missing out with an on-par finish on the 11th. We'll have to bogey that one, that's for certain. Don't think she's going to be too happy about it. Remember, this does tend to be a bit of a worrying factor. At the other end, here's Jun Sung. 19 meters to the hole. That's for hole number 13. Bit of a tough ask for her.
거의 먼저인가요?
And at the other end, it's Bangchin Sil. Bangchin Sil gets on to the 12th hole, aiming for birdie, yeah. That's painfully close. Painfully close. Hasn't had a great day at the office. It's been a tough one for her, puncture until, but I think she's just going to go about with it all the same. Meanwhile, here's Lee Vion, and she tees off for hole number 12. Remember, this hole also a very tricky hole. Gains a good bit of altitude there, and she's put herself onto the rough. Almost out of bounds, but I think she's still pretty much in that more or less safe zone. And Seo Arjun finishes with a birdie on the 4th. She's taken her tally to 3 under par overall after 14 holes. Meanwhile, Park Hankyung gets ready to tee off. Needs to keep that form. Remember, this hole of course can be a bit of a tricky ask. She's got herself just onto, well, the rough, I believe. Now it's a 4-hole with a large hazard on the left side extending from the tee to the green. It does add to that, picturesque setting, but not always desirable for the golfers. And you're looking to finish on par, Junyi Sung. That's exactly what she does. Keeps her score of 4 under par overall intact. Now, the left side of the bunker for hole number 12 is a great location, but the direction of the ground faces the right. So you do tend to lose distance if you, hit in the wrong direction. Now here we have another tee off. It's Sung Yoo Jin for hole number 12. 366 meters, a par 4 for the asking. There's also a creek across the fairway in front of the green here. It's a 3-step green, unless you're a long hitter who can firmly cross the creek. So you've got to be very careful with hole number 12. Meanwhile, eager to get off the rough. She's got the destination in sight. Lee So-mi. Don't think she was going to attempt for birdie for that one, but she'll put herself in contention to finish with an on par on this hole. Lee Ga-young aiming for birdie on hole number 15, and that's it! Just needed that nudge, and she's in flying form here, Lee Ga-young. She's up to 6 under par overall after 15 holes. She's still got 3 left to go, and I think that's interesting. Finished with a 34 on her front 9, and in her back 9, Lee Ga-young is shining. Meanwhile, Bang Shin-sil goes through the motions. Will settle for an on par for hole number 12. Consistent, but she would like to have that X factor in. That X factor, of course, is about the birdie. So Lee Ga-young now chasing that top position. We will get the leaderboard up in just a little bit to show you, if there are any changes. And it's so important to keep tabs, on that front 3, more important than anything else. Park Hankyung, been following her for a while, and seen how she's actually developed into such a strong golfer. Just packed that in fairly well. Just a bit too much, I think, of club on that one. Here's Lee Yvonne. She has to navigate herself out of the cat box.
아니 괜찮아요. 천천히 했지 뭐 120밖에 안 해.
Interestingly, Park Hankyung, of course, this year is 23. In the year 2023. Easy to keep track of your age. Although I wouldn't ask a lady hers, but here's Lee Yvonne onto her second stroke. This is an important one for her. And I think she's at least in the safe zone. She's avoided that water hazard, which is a huge one. And I do believe that that's a very tricky position here on hole number 12. So interesting times here for Lee Yvonne. Sun Yu Jin onto a second stroke, 150 meters to the hole on hole 12. Well, onto the green, a tad bit of distance away, and of course that incline will just take that ball moving further down. So that's just a bit of a bother. When you do have, of course, the shots that roll backwards, a reverse incline, it just creates, well, a bit of a extra worry for the golfer. Junhee Sung next to tee off for hole number 14. And that's onto the green. Needs to, of course, well, conquer an upward incline. Meanwhile, move on to Seo Urjin. It's the 15th hole, second stroke. Well, fairly decent. There's a downward incline towards that, towards the can, and I think she would be very keen on, well, just nudging that next shot of hers rather than giving it any bit of aggression. Lee Jung-min will tee off for hole number 14, 156 meters. It's a par 3 for the asking. She's gone with a 7 iron. And I'd say that's a fairly decent choice. So important to look at that now. It's Lee Jae-yong and Hyo Da-bin who are still at the top with 7 under par, but Lee Ga-yong has moved into third position and replacing Hyun Se-lin, who was there with a 5 under par, because Lee Ga-yong now has 6 under par on overall. So that's been the real change. It's about Lee Ga-yong now. She will look at tapping into that. She's still got about 3 shots left, or 3 holes to get through, and not 3 shots, sorry, but 3 holes to get through. And I think that's important, because if she can actually get through that, I do believe she's got a fairly good chance of probably finishing this day even at the top. She's been in very good form, started off on a very positive note. She's kept her performance very consistent through the day, and I do believe that there's a high chance of her actually either getting into that tied first position or even claiming the top spot. Well, still there's a good bit of golf left to be played here. Remember, there are some, of course, who are still getting through hole number 12, and I do believe that as we progress through this very event, we will see a change at the end of the day. Stay with us, don't go anywhere as we continue with our coverage of this beautiful event, which is the BC Card Hankyung Ladies Cup 2023. And we are coming at you live from the Fortune Hills Country Club in Gyeonggi-do, South Korea. So, interesting times for us. Don't go anywhere as we continue with the action here. Lee Won with the third stroke, aiming for birdie on hole number 12. Oh, that won't find its way through, but I think she'll have to settle in for an on par. It's a fairly straight shot going on from here. Hole number 13. Remember that water hazard. It's a tough one if you ask me. Bang Shensil is on next. Bang Shensil keeping to the fairway, which is a good thing. I think she'll be, well, she's fairly satisfied, keeping in mind the fact that she's had quite a few worries here today. Having said that, we move on to our next attempt from Sung Yoo Jin, who's aiming for birdie on the 12th hole. Will also have to settle for an on par. She knows that. She's got a smile on her face. Sometimes it's a resigned smile. Sometimes it's a smile that just says, well, I kind of knew what the issue is. Lee Jung-min aiming for birdie on hole number 14. Just a gentle push. And She will, of course, be denied that. Will finish with an on par. She's got an even score for her efforts so far today. What's interesting here, of course, is as you can see, the sun's come out a tad bit more because predicted temperatures were 28 degrees maximum and 21 minimum. Started off in the morning at about 20, 21. Now, of course, the temperature is up to about, I would believe, about 26, 27, slightly tolerable. 8.3 meters to the hole. Park Hankyung will aim for birdie on the 12th. And she's going to pick up a Cuban on that one. Just a bit of disappointment for her. What's very interesting, of course, is let me play weatherman for a little bit and give you the forecast for tomorrow and day after. It should be a high of 30 and 31 consecutively. And an on-par finish here for Park Hankyung. The 23-year-old, she made a big splash when golf returned to the greens way back in 2020. She's one of the stars who became pretty much, I think, the face that most of the youngsters would identify with. Now aiming for birdie here, Seo Arjun. Oh, just a gentle push. Almost made it. She will have to settle for an on par. I myself didn't see that slight incline towards the left from where she was trying to finish with an under par, but she'll finish on par here. So 17 degrees and 19 degrees consecutively, that'll be the temperature for Saturday, Sunday as a low when we start off in the morning. The dawn breakers, of course, or the dawn sweepers would see that more importantly. Sung Yoo-jin, hole number 12, will look to finish on par, and that's exactly what she does. Just narrowly missed out on a birdie a while back. So one thing is good because we're looking at Friday, Saturday, Sunday being fairly clear, and then Monday there's going to be thunderstorms, and Tuesday there's going to be a tad bit of sunlight but mainly thunderstorms. So I do believe Friday, Saturday, Sunday are such good days here, and we just hope that this holds true and that the weather forecast was bang on. Lee Yvonne meanwhile will look to finish on par for hole number 12. Not too much of a worry for her. Easy to finish that, and I think she'll just be happy that she's kept those bogeys at bay. Just falling shy of actually nailing that. Interesting times here for our eagle capturer earlier. We move on to Bang Shin-sil. On to her fourth stroke, 123 meters to the hole. This is hole number 13. Got herself fairly close to the flagstick. And to tee off, here's Lee Yvonne. It's hole number 13 for her. 512 meters that we're looking at. Par 5. She's driven that. Well, there's a bit of a wind draft in there. You can tell by the direction of that ball. Just got herself onto the rough, and I do believe the wind, of course, moving more towards that direction. She looked like she was going to drive it, but that ball just got angled a tad bit to the right onto her group member. And that's Sung Yoo-jin. Will tee off as well. she's hooked that too. Interesting to see where this ball finds its way. She's actually got herself onto the rough, but just about managed to escape that gravel path. Here's Lee So-mi. So-mi with her third attempt, 114 meters to the hole. This is for the 13th. Driven that fairly strong. And put herself fairly close to the can as well. Kim Soo-ji onto the 13th hole. A lovely placement there from her. Park Hankyung, sorry, is on to a second stroke for the 13th hole. Do remember, as long as you can keep yourself on the fairway, keep yourself to that lean, avoid getting into the bunkers or the hazards, and your 13th hole can be quite a daunting task. Lee Won onto her second for hole number 13. Needs to get herself off the rough. Remember, she's got those bunkers to watch out for, especially that one out there on the left. And I do believe that she'll be satisfied with that effort, no doubt about it. Meanwhile, it's Bang Sil will settle for an on-par here for hole number 13. She's just missed it, which means she'll have to bogey that, but I think she will clean that up here. Second stroke for Junyi Sung, using the 7-iron, needs to get 136 meters neath her belt. Gets herself onto the green. Here's Sung Yoo Jin. Her second stroke for hole number 13 as well. Well, away from the cat box, and she's got a smile for that. Lee So-mi, she's gone about her work like a routine day at the office. Hasn't been in flying form, will aim for birdie here. She's on an even score so far. This is the 13th hole for her. victory lap there. She'll be excited about that. Gets to 1 under par. So Lee So-mi finally breaking that jinx there. She's still got 5 holes left to go. It's a 1 under par overall, and she's a happy camper for this one. Seo Ejin aiming for birdie on the 16th. Just narrowly missing out on it. Might have to settle for an on par finish. Now, so important to be able to navigate through that. Just getting her swing intact. Needs to analyze how much elevation of 12.3 and over needed. 144 meters in a third stroke to the hole. This is the 13th hole for Sung Ye-jin. And just a bit too much of club on that. She's driven that into the rough. Getting ready to tee off. That Mercedes EQ. Absolutely love it sitting there in the background. It's for a hole-in-one. Using the 7 iron here on the 14th hole to tee off. 156 meters the distance. Here's Lee So-mi. Par 3 for the asking. If you're just wondering, if you're a car lover and you're wondering why that car is so important, and I keep talking about it, for a hole-in-one, well, it's electric. What a joy is that, isn't it? Now here goes Lee Yvonne. She's on to her third stroke for hole number 13. 106 meters to the hole. Elevation of 9.6 required. She's done fairly well with that, and I think just collecting a bit of airmail. Wasn't really expecting that Lee won. Bang Chen-sil will also tee off here. That's for hole number 14. 156 meters the asking. It's a par 3. Well, just gets into the green, just towards the edge. Not too bad a shot at all from her. Hankyung. 99 meters to the hole on the third stroke. That's the asking. 9.7 meters and over the elevation. Also gets herself onto the rough. This is a bit of a tricky hole to really conquer, and I think our golfers do know that. Seo Ejin on the 16th hole. We'll have to settle for an on par, but depends on how well she controls this. Not too much of a worry for her. 2 more holes to go. Back to Lee So-mi. And that looks like it almost slipped out, but she can finish with an on par here on hole 14. And as long as she can do that, I think that's just given her the edge. Tough times. On to Junyi Sung. Aims for birdie on hole number 15. 6.5 meters. Another narrow miss there. Subangchun Sil, 7.8 meters to the hole. Was aiming for birdie. She will have to settle for an on par here too. So that's interesting from Bangchun Sil. She's been able to keep it even score for most part of this day, and I think she would definitely love to see a change. Get a few birdies in there. Talking of which, looking to navigate out of that rough area, of course, is Lee Yvonne. Needs to find a way to the flagstick. She's chipped that onto the green, but still needs to, of course, cover that distance. And if she can finish with, well, a neutral score, I think she'll be happy about that for the time being, at least. Lee Yvonne. There's a good bit of a chance that she could have finished off with the birdie. So all our golfers actually getting onto the rough, and that's an interesting one for this group. It's Sung Yoo Jin. Onto the green, but not as far as she would have liked to have traveled. Jung Yi Sung tees off for hole number 16. Good bit of movement from her. Gets that a little closer towards the flagstick. And meanwhile, here's Park Hankyung. Oh, narrowly missing out on the birdie there for hole number 13. Will also have to finish with an even score. Left to be seen whether her group members can better that. Gentle nudge. And she'll cap it off with an on par. Getting ready to tee off now, Lee So-mi. It's on to hole number 15 for her. Par 4, the asking, 347 meters the distance. A decent spot on the fairway for her. Kim Soo-ji up next. Got a 7 over par, 347 meters and a par 4 for the asking. I do think that Kim Soo-ji would be very keen on, well, changing her fortunes around, but could be a tad bit late in the day here today. Up next it's Bang Chun-sil. Hole number 15 for her. Did pack a wallop into that one. Remember, it's a par 4 for the asking. Very decent spot on the fairway as well. Sung Yoo Chin, hole number 13, will look to settle on par. And she'll just end up bogeying that one. Put herself in a fairly formidable position in that first 9. But on the back 9, it's just been, well, a few worries for her, a few stumbling blocks, literally. Lee Won next. And can she do better than the group members and finish with an on par here? And that'll keep her overall score intact at 3 under par so far. There we have it, 13 done. It's still 3 under par. She's got 5 holes more to go. Keep in mind the fact, of course, that the number of golfers from 132 will practically be halved. You have, of course, round 3, which will have the least amount of golfers, which is the cream of the crop. Using a 7 iron here now, 12 meters to the hole for Lee Jung-min.
In. Go. Nice body.
That is absolutely wonderful from her. Absolutely wonderful finish from Lee Jung-min. And if she was looking to better her score, then, well, she's just got a bit of a morale booster here. And just a view of that, chip that ever so gently, perfect, really, if you ask me. Well, as our golfers continue to, well, tee off here. It's Lee Won getting ready to go next. Remember, she's had a very interesting time as well. Well, using the iron just to get past. I think she's done, well, just fairly well to get started. It's Young Park will get ready next. Hole number 14, Park Hankyung. 156 meters for the asking. It's a par 3. There's a hazard on the left and an OB area on the right, but it's a short par 3 hole where you can comfortably, well, challenge the on green, and that's in park herself, puts herself into a fairly solid position here. Time, of course, to move on to her next group member. And hole number 14 is also such an important hole. It's a par 3 and, well, as I said, it is a tad bit comfortable, but remember there's a hazard on that left. So Sung Yoo Jin goes next. She's still on an even score for her efforts here today. Gets a good bit of encouragement, and I think she's put herself into a fairly good position to, well, nail a birdie. Absolutely marvelous shot from her. Jun Sung aiming for birdie here, will narrowly miss it. It could finish with an on par, keep her score well intact at that 4 under par. Kim Soo-ji. Hole number 15, a second stroke, 122 meters. The distance to the hole, she's used the 8 iron. Well, that's a fairly good shot if you ask me. Gauged the distance well, but she's been in a tad bit of a spot here with that over par score. Bang Chun Sil with a second shot for hole 15. That will roll away from the flagstick thanks to that incline there. That's a downward incline. Very quickly, a quick look at our leaderboard. Lee Ji-young and Hyo Da-bin still at the top there with that 7 under par score in tied first. Lee Ga-young chasing that top spot. She's finished 17 holes. She's got one more hole to nail it for a tied first. And in fourth position, it's Hyun Se Lin. So interesting times here as far as the event is concerned. And there might be a change, or we might see the same leaders, well, stay where they are currently. Lee Won aiming for birdie on hole number 14. Picks up a Cuban there. I would have said that this is absolute masterclass from her, but just narrowly missing out. Meanwhile, it's back to Bang Chun-sil, also aiming for birdie on the 15th. This one a bit of an ask, 10.6 meters to the hole. Just needed that, a tad bit more of vocal encouragement. I think that could have just, well, coaxed that ball into finding its way to the can. Here's Sung Yoo-jin, also aiming for birdie on hole number 14. She's dragged that a tad bit away from its destination. Well, the 18th hole, 490 meters, 2 sand bunkers towards the right area of the fairway. And it's a par 5 for the asking. Kim Ji-soo onto her 18th hole. It's the 3rd stroke. She's got herself up to, well, a beautiful position for a birdie. That should be a good finish for her after a very challenging morning. And I think she's all smiles, keeping in mind the fact that she's, well, had to pull through. And if you finish on a positive note, what a way to go, isn't it? On the 18th also is Lee Ga-young, just pushing that a tad bit. Remember, she wants to keep that 6 under par intact to probably finish with the 7 under par. The birdie might be just a tad bit out of contention, but you never know. She's been such a wonderful, well, talent in today's event, so anything is possible. Now here's Park back again. Hankyung aiming for birdie on the 14th. A narrow miss there, will have to get her to settle for an on par. Kim Ji-soo just tapping that area. And that's an excellent bit of work from her. Set herself up for that birdie very nicely. So 18 holes for the count for Kim Ji-soo. Now Lee So-mi gets ready to tee off for the 16th. It's a par 3. She's gone with the 7 iron, 149 meters to cover, straight on to, well, the green for her. Lee Ga-young narrowly missing out on the birdie, and she'll miss out on that tied first position on the table, but she will keep second position for the time being. She's finished round 1 with an overall of 6 under par, 34 on the front 9, 32 on the back 9. She's had, well, 4 good birdies in there on that back 9, so a good finish from Lee Ga-young, and she will be one of the golfers to watch in this event, definitely going into round 2 and then probably round 3 as well. Bang Chun-sil tees off for well, the 16th. Let's also get a view of the 15th hole here. It's got a rocky island. Well, as we can see in the hazard at the tee shot, and it can be intimidating. The wide fairway behind it is fairly easy. But the bunker in front, if you hit your tee shot, you've got to be relatively short. It's a relatively short hole with the bunker hidden behind the green. So you need to be very careful there. That's where you can see it. You don't really get sight of that from the tee off position, but that bunker there can be a real worry behind the green. And it's something that you tend to kind of ignore most of the time. There's a downward incline, so as it reaches towards the edge of the green, so I don't think it should be too much of a problem. You have to be very careful on this hole, I do believe, with your club selection. That's so very important. And here's Hankyung teeing off for hole number 15, 347 meters for the count. It's a par 4. And I think she's done fairly well just to keep her head out of any sort of obstacles for the time being. Up next it's Lee Won. When you have rock islands looming in front of you, always tends to be, it's almost like people standing there, isn't it? But then our golfers, of course, go way above and beyond all that. So, well, just off the fairway, and I would say just off the smooth into the rough, but I don't think Lee Yvonne is going to be too concerned about it. As long as you can avoid the hazards involved in this hole, you pretty much can keep yourself on fairly solid ground. Hankyung, Lee Won, and their group member, that's Sung Yu Jin. On to hole number 15, she'll tee off 347 meters, the distance as mentioned earlier, par 4 that we're looking at. Sung Yu Jin is currently on an even score. And she's driven that well. Manages to stay on the lean, and I think that's what's important for her. I do love those wide angle shots. I've always praised them. It just gives you the view. Almost looks like a setting for a Lego city when you see all those vehicles and our golfers just reduced in size. Now here's Bang Shin Sil aiming for birdie on hole 16. And that ball's just going to be stubborn, but she'll have to settle for an on par. And that's exactly what she does as Lee So-mi gets ready to move in next. Meanwhile, elsewhere, here's Seo Eun-jin. That was the third stroke. She will aim for birdie with the next one. Let's very quickly also remind you that we're coming at you live from the Fortune Hills Country Club, which is right here in Gyeonggi-do, South Korea. But keep in mind the fact that it's been a very good day for us. The BC Card Hankyung Ladies Cup 2023 has had a few surprises in round 1. We've had decent weather. Lee So-mi gets ready to attempt a birdie for hole number 16. Almost perfection here from her. Just this bit of a slide. It's one of the things, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to play here at the Fortune Hills Country Club. It's a great course. Beautiful, scenic. tends to be one of those courses where, it's not very forgiving. So in terms of birdies, in terms of eagles, when they do come by, it's really, cherished or appreciated. Here's Lee Won onto a second stroke for hole number 15. 131 meters to the hole. Oh, that is a wonderful shot. An absolutely wonderful shot. Has put herself into contention for an under par finish on this hole. Lee So-mi. Will try to settle for an on par here on hole number 16. And that's exactly what she does. Hasn't been at the top of her game here today, but she's, well, just kept her head above the water, and I think that that's important. Or above the green, to be politically correct. Sung Yoo-jin going in with the second stroke for hole number 15. That's another absolutely brilliant shot. She's a very talented golfer. She's had very good intent. She's a very good, a very good display of skill today, but it's just about that execution, at the end that's kind of bothered her a tad bit. On to Seo Yoon Jung. Will attempt a birdie on hole number 18. She's currently on 1 under par, and it looks like it's going to stay that way. So she finishes round 1 with a 1 under par score, had 35 on the front 9, 36 on the second 9, no birdies to account for in that back 9, and I think that that's really what was the bother for her. Seo Urchin will aim for birdie on hole number 18. And lovely finish here. She has been, very good here today. 4 under par overall, 34 on the front 9, 34 on the back 9. She did have, of course, a bogey in there in that front 9, and that's what created a bit of a worry. But a 4 under par, not bad at all. Having said that, Lee So-mi gets ready to tee off. She's driven that fairly hard. Well, keeps to the lean, which is a good thing. Kim Soo-ji tees off for hole number 17 as well. Well, just about avoiding the grating there, and I think that that's a good thing. Bang Chil-sin has had a very, very eventful day, I would say, and I think it really boils down to what she can finish with here today, and that'll determine, whether she's going to be back in the fray tomorrow morning. Here's Park. Well, had the intent, had the concept right, but just missing out on finding the tin cup. And I think she'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. Well, if she's in the fray tomorrow, we might see some wondrous moments. Now trying to get herself out of the cat box. Here's Jun Yi Sung. And I think she set herself up for a, well, on par finish for this hole. I think that should be, will still keep her spirits up. Remember, only the cream of the crop will get through to the next round. That's round 2, where the numbers reduce tomorrow depending on the points tally. And then, of course, in round 3, you only have the best in this particular tournament that'll compete for the winning prize. That's the championship. Sung Yoo-jin aims for birdie on hole 15. Just a tad bit too much of risk, I would believe, on that one. And she's been great with the tee off. She's been great with that second stroke, or even the setup for a birdie. It's just that execution that has kind of eluded her here today. The perfect execution. And it's Jung Yi Sung for hole 17. Looks to finish on par, and yes, she does. She's still got a hole to go for in this day's event. Here's Park Hankyung. Well, just lipped out on that one, otherwise would have finished on par. She'll have to settle for a bogey on the 15th. Don't think that's going to be too exciting for her. So bogey, her first, and it's in the back 9 that she's achieved that. So 3 more holes to go for Park. Now it's Lee 1. A birdie within reach. And a birdie nail there. So, marvelous bit of work being done by Lee Yvonne. Picks up a birdie on a 15th hole. She had 33 on that front 9. Left to be seen what happens here. She's got a 4 under par overall. Concentration a must, but Kim Soo-ji onto a second stroke for hole number 17. She's got a 7 over par score. Don't think it's been the most favorable, and she just might find herself out of the contest. Sung Yoo-jin aiming for an on-par finish for hole 15. And she's kept it together. Bang Chun-sil with the second stroke for hole number 17. And just gets herself onto the rough, but she's fairly close to the flagstick, and I think she just might be able to turn things around in her favor. She's done that in the past in today's event. Quick look at our leaderboard there on the side as Lee Jae-young and Hyo Da-bin will lead with 7 under par, and Lee Ga-young is still in. Of course, she finished her round 1 with a 3rd position on the leaderboard. Hyun Se Lin is still in 4th with a 5 under par. Lee Won gets ready to tee off for hole 16. Remember, 149 meters. It's a par 3 that we're looking at. Lovely shot, absolutely lovely start here.
넘어는 가는 것 같아.
그리는 맞아.
Well, up next, it's a group member. Sung Yoo Jin will tee off for hole 16. It's onto the green, not the fanciest of shots, but it'll just be enough for her to at least will get back in. Here's Lee So-mi aiming for birdie on hole number 17. And we'll have to settle for an on-par finish. Here's young Park, who gets ready to tee off for hole number 16. Park Hankyung using a 6-iron. She's got to cover 149 meters. It's a par 3 for the asking. Well, onto the green. A fairly good shot from her as well. Now there's a hazard on the left when you're teeing off, and there's a cliff on the right. And this is a threatening par 3 hole. Kind of akin to an island green. When attacking the green, of course, the left side from the center is always the part that you need to go towards. There's a lot of room at the back of the green, and it's good to choose 1 or 2 clubs longer. So I do believe club selection very important, even though, you know, hole 16 can be fairly short. Bang Shin still missing out on the birdie on hole 17. We'll look to clean it up there with an on-par finish. And I think she'll be resigned to the fact that she's finished it fairly easy. Hole number 18, of course, comes up next. 490 meters, it's a 5. A par that we were looking at, and many of our golfers will finish off their rounds here with this. A third stroke, Jun Ye-sung, sorry, for hole number 18. So Lee Jong still continues to lead the way there with that 7 under par along with Hyoda Bin. And, well, Lee Ga-young is still in second position. Remember, in that tied fifth, of course, you got Jun Se-young, Park Dan-yu, and Lee Won. Lee Won has been fairly consistent with her efforts here today, and we might see a bit of magic from her going forward. Well, our coverage from the Fortune Hills Country Club continues. Remember, we've got a tad bit more of holes to get through, especially that 16, 17, and 18 that we're looking at. And the first grouping of Lee Yvonne along with Park Hankyung. And, well, they've been fairly competitive. Lee Yvonne, of course, would like to finish with, Lee Yvonne would like to finish definitely probably in a tied fourth if possible, or maybe even in the third position at the end of this day's event. It's been a bit of a different run here for our last year's winner, and I was quite surprised about that. Park Min-ji won the BC Card Hankyung Ladies Cup 2022 in Pocheon, Gyeonggi last year. That's right here, and it marked the third win of the season and 13th of a career. Now played for 3 days. It's a 54-hole stroke play event. It was won only after a sudden death playoff against Park Ji-young. So Park Ji-young was the one that really challenged her through it. Remember, the prize money we're looking at is about 800 million Korean won, or to be precise, that's about 616,489 USD. Just looking at the last few events, of course, Sung Yoo-jin did win the 21st May event. That was the Doosan Match Play Championship. But the last one on the 18th of June, which was a major, that's a DB Group Korea Women's Open Golf Championship. It was Hong Ji-won who won it. Park Min-ji won the Celtrion Queens Masters on the 11th of June. Bang Shin-sil won the E1 Charity Open on the 28th of May. And the other major, which is the Krias FNC KLPGA Championship on the 30th of April, was won by Lee Da-yeon. So interesting times here. We've had a lot of winners, of course, who've been kind of spread out, but we still have to see Lee Da-yeon, of course, while she won that, the season's opener was won by Lee Yi-won, which was the Lotte Rent-A-Car Women's Open on the 9th of April. So interesting times to see if we have a double winner, because currently, as I can see it, it's still all individual tournaments have been won by different golfers. There is no change as far as that is concerned, and I think that that's interesting. And it's back to the green for us. Sung Yoo-jin aims for birdie on hole number 16, and that's nailed beautifully. Well, she's finally hitting her stride, and I think it'll be good for her. It's a 1 under par for her. She's had 2 bogeys there on the back 9, 1 on the front 9, and I think this birdie will just serve her well to get her spirit back up. Remember, Sung Yoo-jin won the Doosan Match Play Championship on the 21st of May. Now, of course, it's time for us to move on to, well, the other group. Here's Lee Jung-min. She's on the 18th hole, aims for birdie, her 4th stroke. Will miss out on that and will look to finish on par. and on a positive, rather, sorry, not on a positive, but on a neutral finish in today's event. Meanwhile, here's Park, who gets ready for her next spot. Park Hankyung aiming for birdie on this one. Again, a narrow miss. And that's what's happened to her on about 9 occasions here consecutively. She will have to settle for an on-par finish for hole 16. Back to hole 18. I can't say Hawkeye, but I'll just call her Eagle Eye for today, after she gave us that wonderful effort a while back. Jenny Sung aims for birdie. Will also have to finish probably with an on-par. Lee Won. It's hole 16 for her. She's on to her second. Will aim for birdie here. Can she do it? Well, definitely just a tad bit of disappointment for her. Lee Yvonne on the 16th hole will finish with an on par, so not too much of a worry. I do believe she's had a fairly decent outing here today, or a decent day at the office if you ask me, and looking to finish off her first round. Missed out on the birdie for certain, could finish with an on par. Here's Lee Jung Min, that's her 18th hole. And the last bit of action for the day as she finishes round 1. Lee Jung Min, 36 on the front 9, 36 on the back 9, and she finishes on an even score. Put that down to those few bogeys that she picked up. Here's Park also looking to finish hole 16 on par. That's exactly what she does. Here to finish off round 1, her 18th hole for the day. And Junhee Sung will finish on par. She'll also finish round 1 with a 4 under par overall score. I do think she would have liked to have bettered that, but 33 on the front 9, 35 on the back 9. Did have a bogey in that front 9, which of course played spoil sport to her final score at the end of round 1. Just going to run you through a few glimpses of what transpired today, and that's the 4th hole. Some of the good well finishes as well.
In. 나이스.
Lee Ji-young. And that was her efforts early on when she took herself to first position after the 9th hole. What a fine finish that was. An absolutely marvelous effort there. And she was so thrilled about it. It was Hyun Se Rin. And this was absolutely fantastic. It was a straight eagle. No bounce, nothing. Just a straight shot into the pot. That was such an amazing effort from Jun Young. And Jun Young again giving us that whole amazing tee off. And that was a fine finish from her as well on the 14th hole. Lee Ga-young. And that's when she almost nailed a hole-in-one, wasn't it? Strong chance here of actually finding yourself in a set of wheels driving home. Full effort there earlier, wasn't it, from Lee Ga-young? Well, she really did extremely well to get herself up into that, top position. Narrow miss on that birdie as well. And then, of course, finishing with an on par, and that was so required here for Jun Young. So after those highlights, of course, let's give you a quick reminder that it's still Lee Ji-young who actually took the first position after she finished the 9th hole, and she finished today's event with a 7 under par, along with Hyodab Bean on 7 under par in a tied first. Lee Ga-young, our biggest mover, of course, in that back 9, went up to 6 under par to take the 3rd spot. Still got Lee Won, who's in a tied 6th with a 4 under par. She's finished off 16 holes. She's still got 2 more to go, and there's hope springs eternal always. And Lee Won, of course, who's been a winner, on the tour this year, she definitely could have, a better finish or a better placing at the end of the day. 2 holes more to go for her and her teammates, including Park Kyung-hyun. And of course, let's not forget, more importantly, it's Sung-Yoo Jin also, who's along with them in the fray. So interesting times for us here, but Lee Won definitely the biggest mover in her group and among her group members. We move on, of course, to what we will see as the last 2 holes for round 1. And just a lovely view of course, the course itself. I do love those aerial views. It just looks like such beautiful spots of land. And one of the interesting things that we often neglect, especially when we do get onto the greens and play, and we do enjoy, of course, the atmosphere, it's the actual beauty which can be seen through those aerial shots, and how well curated and beautifully maintained, of course, most courses are around the world. There are, of course, complaints about a couple of courses here and there, but it's never really something to deter somebody from, what they can do as far as making the golf course even more beautiful is concerned. Sometimes, of course, some critics will always look at golf courses as being, a tad bit too difficult, a tad bit too rough. But believe you me, that's just what makes, the course even more exciting than it already is. So beautiful land, absolutely love the greenery. It's surrounded by mountains of green, surrounded by thick foliage. Absolutely beautiful course here. And I do love the atmosphere. It's fairly clean weather. It's not too humid, about 40-50% humidity. But the temperature, of course, has dipped, ever since the sun's begun to hide its face. And it probably will get cooler at about maybe 21, or 20 degrees Celsius as we progress through the evening. But he started off, of course, in the morning. Most of the dew sweepers soaked in that 19, 20 degrees. It went up to about 25 or 27 degrees, in the afternoon. It was pleasant. It wasn't too hot. And let's remind you, of course, that we'll be covering round 2 and round 3 as well. And we do hope you join us to watch the action for those 2 rounds. But for now, we still have to get through round 1. And it's been, well, we've had a few twists in the tail. So let's find out if Lee Won can be the one who can provide a bit of joy here and maybe move into a tied second or even into, well, a tied fourth. Well, anything is possible here at the course. So we'll keep it coming at you live from the Fortune Hills Country Club. And my advice is you don't go anywhere.